Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever. Whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.
Support comes from Thomas Nelson Community College, the first choice to start a bachelor's degree. Tuition is 1/3 the cost for the first 2 years of college. From there, students can transfer to one of Virginia's 4-year schools. tncc.edu.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Another View is jam-packed today. 2 topics, 2 guests, and our first of several profiles featuring African-American nonprofits. Up first, the Honorable Bobby Scott, our congressman representing Virginia's 3rd Congressional District and chair of the Education and Labor Committee. He has news about his committee's work on the Build Back Better Act. Later in our broadcast, a special invite for men who turn 40 in September. It's a party, a life-saving party. Charlie Hill, president of the Hampton Roads Prostate Health Forum, has the details. And Lisa Godley with the story of Cape Charles Rosenwald School. It's all next on Another View, so stay tuned. We'll be right back after this news from NPR and WHRV News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. 2 guests, 2 topics, 1 show, so let's get started. Our first guest is no stranger to Another View, and we are always honored when he can be with us. Joining us right now is Congressman Bobby Scott. How are you, Congressman?
Thank you, Barbara. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So you're up in D.C., and I understand you had to walk out of a speech in order to join us. So we appreciate that.
I'm in Norfolk State at the president's installation.
Okay. I thought you were in Washington. Well, great. I'm glad you're here in town.
I'm in town. The President, Dr. J, is being installed as president.
Yes.
And I thought it was going to be about an hour and a half, and it turned out to be over 2 hours, so I had to leave before it was over. But it's a pleasure to be with you. Good to be back.
Thanks so much. We appreciate that. So you've been really, really busy, and I want to talk about this Build Back Better Act. Your committee had the biggest chunk of the money that would be spent in order to help us get back on track in terms of the economy, in terms of education, our youth, and so forth. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys decided in committee?
Well, the committee had a fairly significant part of the Build Back Better, what they call reconciliation plan. Mm-hmm. But before we get to that, I like to celebrate what we've already gotten done. We're working on that, what we've already gotten done in the American Rescue Plan. That was the bill that created the $1,400 checks, improved the earned income tax credit,
yes,
and the child tax credits that people families can get $300 checks. State and local support, massive amounts for education, distributed according to the Title I formula, so low-income areas got the most money. We improved health care with making health care more affordable. We improved nutrition, both school nutrition and enhanced SNAP benefits, mm-hmm, housing money. We saved about 1 million people's pensions and numerous businesses that were in jeopardy, the multi-employer pension fund. We continued in the rescue plan the extra $300 for unemployment benefits and continued the benefits for gig workers, unemployed, mm-hmm, self-employed. We did all of that. And as a result of that, it looks like we're going to be able to reduce child poverty by about 50% this year. Now, the biggest reduction in 1 year on record is about 20%. We feel we're going to reduce child poverty 50% in 1 year. And that's all, we've already done that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we haven't finished. As you said, we've got the Build Back Better part with the infrastructure part. The infrastructure part is traditional roads and bridges, tunnels, broadband, transit, rail and airports and ports, that kind of thing. But a lot of money for resiliency, money for to help on the climate and energy grid. But in addition to that, that bill, the Build Back Better plan is human infrastructure, and a lot of that, as you indicated, comes through the Education and Labor Committee that I chair. Significant support for childcare. No family should pay more than 7% of the family income towards childcare. Early childhood education with pre-K, universal pre-K, so that children can be off on the right track, and it's easier to keep them on the right track than having a lot of students having to catch up when they get to kindergarten and first grade. A lot of money for job training. I mean, before the pandemic, it was hard to find a welder in Hampton Roads. We have significant funding for job training. We have the community colleges have a lot of little programs where just an 8 to 16-week program, you can significantly increase your earning capability. But if you can't afford the small tuition, maybe $1,000 to $3,000, if you can't afford the tuition, you can't take advantage of that opportunity.
Right.
And so we make community colleges free, along with the job training assistance. We'll give a lot of people opportunities. School construction. Our bill has a lot of money for school construction. The average school in America is over 40 years old. In Virginia, it's over 50 years old. So obviously, school construction is a major concern. And nutrition. We improved the school lunch program, so about 9 million additional students can get free lunch. There are only 50 million students in public school now, and 9 million additional over and above what's there now will be able to get free meals. And so that's just what's within the jurisdiction of the Education and Labor Committee.
Right. But Congressman, let me ask you.
Let me say a couple of things. What other committees are doing? The other committees are doing improvements on Medicare, reducing drug prices, family and medical leave paid. We have family and medical leave now. This would be paid, and making permanent the child tax credit that reduced child poverty, and the improvements in the Affordable Care Act. So there's a lot of work being done. We don't know how much of it we're going to be able to get passed. But if we can get anywhere close to what we've reported out of committee so far, it will be transformational in lowering costs for families and giving them significantly new opportunities to move up in the economic ladder.
So let me ask you this though, because all that would be great. I understand from reading the materials that this money, if all of this passes, would be done through block grants to the states and so forth. And so if you look at what happened with the rent assistance right now, where money has not been dispersed, is there something that you guys plan to do to keep people or to get the states to actually pass the money down to the people that need it?
Yes, because the funding is through existing programs. We're increasing fundings and improving eligibility for existing programs. So, for example, the child care, there's presently a child care program. If your income is below 85% of the state median income, you would be eligible. Unfortunately, there's so little money that only about a fifth of those who are eligible actually get the benefit. What we do is significantly increase the benefit so that virtually every family will be financially eligible to get the benefit. And we gradually make it an entitlement so everybody, in fact, will get it, just like Medicaid. If you're eligible, you sign up, you get it. You don't have to. If the money doesn't run out. I got you. And so that program exists. They know how to run it. They'll just have more participants and more funding. The job training, we fund existing programs. Right now, the local job training programs. If you go to the job training board, they can accommodate and pay for the services. Only about a third of the people that we'd like to be able to serve. If we increase the eligibility and increase the funding, all they have to do is do more of what they are already doing. School construction. We know how to create schools. Nutrition programs. We know how to run school lunch programs.
So they're not brand new. They're not brand new
programs.
Programs.
The problem with the rent, we just sent them the money and they had to invent the program. Well, some of them are still inventing it. Virginia's actually done a lot better than most states. And we also have a provision in there that on evictions, I think the General Assembly passed a provision that you can't evict somebody if you haven't applied for the money first.
Right.
Which is a real protection. But, I mean, Virginia's done better than most. But it was a brand-new program. We funded it, and then the states had to figure out what to do with the money. In this bill, as a matter of fact, through reconciliation, it's very difficult to invent new programs. But you can fund existing programs. That's easy. That's what we've done in virtually all of these programs. We have existing programs that are already being run and just provide more resources so more people can benefit. So we don't expect the same kind of problems that happened with the rental assistance.
Okay, let me take a call from one of your constituents. David joins us from Norfolk. Hi, David. You're on the air.
Hello, Ms. Hamley. Hello, Congressman. How are you?
Dave's fine, thank you. How are you?
Quite well, thank you. It's funny you should mention that because I did apply for rent relief in May, and I got an email confirming that they got my application, and I called to see what the status of it was, and they said they didn't have a record of it. What do I do now, Congressman?
Call the you can call my office, but you can call it's in the State Department of Housing and Community Development is running the program. Rather than do emails, if you can get somebody on the phone, that would be you can get rather than go back and forth in emails. But if you call our office, we'll see what the problem is. If you got an email that they got your application, they should have a record of it. So you can call our office 757-380-1000 is my district office, and we'll see. We'll try to help you and follow through.
Okay. Thank you, David, for the call. We appreciate that. Congressman, let me ask you a question. So from the outside, it feels like, Congress is just dysfunctional right now. Everybody's bickering, partisan bickering, members within parties bickering. Is it as bad as it feels from the outside, or are you guys actually, this is how the sausage is made and you're actually getting something done?
Well, the answer to that question is what provoked me to start off with what we have already accomplished with the American Rescue Plan. Cutting child poverty in half that legislation has already passed. It's law. So whatever we haven't done or can't do, and whatever we're arguing we've done, we did that. Now we're trying to do more, and some want to do a lot more, and some don't want to do as much, and so trying to land somewhere in between will be challenging. Everybody has a different priority, what they want funded. You'll remember that the first proposal was $6 trillion, not $3.5 trillion, $6 trillion, and that would fully the initiatives that we have in our committee would be fully funded: childcare, early childhood education, job training, free community college, school construction, and enhanced nutrition. With a lot of smaller initiatives like the Older Americans Act programs and many others. All of the initiatives could be funded, but that was we couldn't get a consensus on that, so the consensus kind of landed at $3.5 trillion. So a lot of things aren't going to be funded. So there's a lot of competition on what's going to be left out, or if you fund some of the programs that during the 10 years, if you just fund them for 5 years, it'll only cost you half as much. Now, 5 years from now, you got to worry about what are you going to do for the next 5 years.
You got to turn around and do it all over again.
And you may not be able to move forward. That may be the end of it.
Right.
That's the disadvantage of cutting out the years. But there'll be a lot of competition. Some are saying they won't vote if it's that much, and some say they won't vote if it's less than that. So, I've told people that if people come into this debate with the idea that it's my way or the highway, all that's going to do is create a traffic jam on the highway. So people are going to have to be a little flexible if we're going to get anything done. But if we get anything done along the lines of what we're talking about now, if we're anywhere close, it will be transformational. Families will see their costs go down and opportunities go up. So we certainly hope that we can come to some agreement on legislation because too much is at stake.
Okay. Let's talk to Richard in Newport News. Hi, Richard. You're on the air.
Thank you. Always enjoy the program. Congressman Scott, thank you. I know you're busy, I'm sure. Congressman Scott, my concerns are, it's a more difficult question. The homicides in Hampton Roads, as they are in many places, have gone up quite a bit. We're over 160 last year. We're going to be over 160 this year. That's every 2 days. And I just need to know I'd like to hear your thoughts on increased funding for police, jails, opportunities. These are young people.
Okay, thanks, Richard, for the call. Go ahead, Congressman.
Well, first of all, if you're trying to reduce the murder rate, if you begin the discussion with police, I frankly don't think that's the place you ought to start. People don't wake up in the morning and start shooting each other all of a sudden. I mean, it's a trend. It's a gradual effect where they first start joining gangs and messing up, and then they get into, after years of involvement, get into the shootings. The challenge is to get young people on the right track and keep them on the right track, and you don't. There's nothing you can do overnight to reduce the murder rate. You have to having children on a trajectory where they know they have opportunities. They know if they mess up, that they have a lot to lose. Now, when you have a lot of people who don't believe they have much of a future, now that's when you get in trouble. That's why you need to have heavy investments in a continuum of services, starting with teen pregnancy prevention, so fewer babies are born into dysfunctional families, prenatal care that will reduce learning disabilities and mental retardation, nurse visits right after birth to make sure the child gets the proper nutrition and guidance, early childhood education, make sure the child can read by the third grade. The teachers tell us up to the third grade, you learn to read. After the third grade, you read to learn. If you can't read by the third grade, you're not going to learn after the third grade, and you're on the way to the school-to-prison pipeline. We need a continuum of services, after-school programs, so that people have constructive things to do with their time. When they join a gang because they want the associations. They want people that they can be around, that love them. That's where the after-school programs are so important. They get those associations with adult guidance. And so we need a continuum of services to get young people up to the point where they're either on the job or in college. And once young people can get on the job or in college without getting in any trouble, the crime rate plummets, the murder rate plummets. But it's getting them either into college or on the job and onto a good job. And that's where job training, if you're not going to college, job training opportunities ought to be there, and a good apprenticeship, carpenter, electrician, something like that, a good apprenticeship. The people come out of those apprenticeships making $70,000 or more.
They actually make a livable wage where they can deal.
We have, but those opportunities have to be available. The idea that you can that the police can suppress, will be Johnny on the spot when somebody pulls the gun. The police can respond to crime. They can solve the crime, but they're not the one. That's not how you reduce crime. You reduce crime by changing the conditions of the city so that young people are on track in not the cradle to prison pipeline, but the cradle to college and career pipeline. And that gives the idea it's got to be a continuum of constant services and make sure people know they have the opportunities.
So
making college more accessible, so people know that they can go to college if they stay in school, do their homework. They have an opportunity to go to college, and it's affordable, and without We're trying to get people to be able to go and complete a college degree without crushing debt. There are a lot of things we're working on, and that's how you reduce the murder rate. When people are living in situations where they don't believe they have any opportunity, they join gangs, and that's, the police can't help you on that.
Yeah. Congressman, we got about 4 minutes left because I know you have to go soon. But I want to ask you about the fact that the fences are back up at the Capitol in preparation for this rally on Saturday, Justice for J6, as they're calling it, in support of the insurrectionists who overtook the Capitol. I'm just wondering what the mood was like when you left D.C. in terms of your fellow congressmen and women, and seeing the fencing again, reliving that whole thing. What's the mood?
The fences hadn't gone back up when we were last in Washington.
Okay.
We don't know. We've been told that there's no specific reports of intelligence about specific acts of violence, but and we're doing an investigation to find out what happened on January 6th. A lot of it seemed coordinated and intentional to try to disrupt the counting of the ballots, and people have no idea how close they were to being successful. If they had been able to breach the Capitol about 2 minutes earlier, they would have overrun the Senate with members of the Senate there. The members of the House, there are many in the gallery that were trapped in the gallery. The reports are that they just decided there was only one door left that they thought they could get out of. They didn't know whether it was safe or not, but it was the last chance. They went out and it was safe. You had a murderous mob within moments of overrunning the House and Senate floors with members there. Had they overrun the House with members there and been able to murder a couple of members of the House, they could have changed the majority. I mean, the Democrats only have about, we only have about a 3-vote majority at this point. So if they had killed 4 people, I mean, we wouldn't have had the majority. And they could have actually voted to overturn several of these elections. Now, what does the government look like when I don't know what they would have done it or not, but an overwhelming majority of members, Republican members of the House, voted to overturn the election results, and enough states to change the results. Now, had they had the actual majority, there would have been a lot of pressure on those that had voted no to vote yes. So we need to investigate to see what happened, who brought the people there, what was the coordination. And those facts hopefully will be revealed during the investigation.
Yeah.
But we're not in town this week. Staff have in fact been told not to show up even on Friday, just to avoid any confrontation. So very few, if any, members will be on Capitol Hill on Saturday, and I believe virtually no staff. No congressional staff will be there. Committee staff will be there. Obviously, the support staff will be there. The Capitol Police will be there. So I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but the idea that you're supporting you have an open support for what was an attempt that could have overthrown the Democratic elected president.
It's scary.
Very concerning.
Yeah. Congressman Scott, you know what? We're going to get you when we can have you for the full hour at some point in time, but we're going to let you go right now. Thank you for all the work that you're doing representing us from the 3rd Congressional District in Virginia, and we will talk with you very, very soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, and we will be right back. welcome back. So if you are an African-American man and turning 40 this month, listen up. There's a party happening this weekend, especially for you. It's called Fortify 757. And here to tell us the details is Charlie Hill, president of the Hampton Roads Prostate Health Forum. Hello, Charlie. How are you?
Hello, Barbara, and thank you once again for allowing us to join you on air. I want you to know, and I want all of your listeners to know, that you have been the leading and most consistent media support for the Hampton Roads Prostate Health Forum that we've had from the very beginning, and we still appreciate that. And I will say one additional thing. You just finished talking with Congressman Scott. He was and continues to be the most consistent elected person to support our efforts with prostate cancer in all of Hampton Roads. So that's a great sign.
Thank you so very much, and that was very kind of you to say. But, this is a really critical issue, particularly for African-American men. And I noticed that you're doing this party for 40-year-olds. That seems young. Is that a new number in terms of when men should start getting tested for prostate cancer?
Actually, I'm glad you noticed that. The number 40 has been in place for several years. In fact, what we used to say was that starting at age 35, black men and other high-risk men should start learning about prostate cancer. This is still an area that requires continuous growth and development in order to really appreciate how important it is. The age 40 part essentially is an agreement among a lot of professionals which says certainly by the age of 40 you should have at least a baseline or your first PSA test and digital rectal exam. So that's what 40 is about. And our goal in this campaign is to celebrate for every month those men who turn 40. And now our expectation is once they have the initial baseline test and examine, and they discover that the sky didn't fall, then the next year, then it's easier for them to do this again and again and again. And what better reminder is than to have on your birthday, you're supposed to do certain things, and one of those things is to get PSA testing and digital rectal exam. So that's why we've chosen 40. Now, there are other groups, and this is a very important point. This is why I'm glad you raised this question about 40. For other groups, which are what we call average group, and that's another way of saying white men. Okay. And we need to be comfortable with that. For white men, a higher number may be appropriate. So, and that's oftentimes why people get confused. They hear 40, 45. They may even hear higher numbers. But for black and other high-risk men, 45 is too late.
Got you.
40 is the number. And let me talk a bit about high risk. For us, high-risk men are those men whose father or a brother has been diagnosed with prostate cancer, regardless of their status. They may not have prostate cancer, but by definition, if their father or a brother has been diagnosed, there's a high probability that those men will eventually be diagnosed with prostate cancer.
So, Charlie, you've been in this fight for a long time, and I'm wondering, are the reasons why men are so hesitant, black men in particular, are so hesitant to have this testing done, have the reasons changed over the years? And what are those reasons?
Well, I think the primary reason is that we have not done the job necessary to make black people in general aware of the prostate gland and the prostate cancer, et cetera. I think if you flip the coin and look at either lung cancer, or people can connect to cigarettes and say, oh, well, yeah, that's not good for you. Women have done a terrific job with breast cancer, and that tends not to have the same issues. But very few people talk about prostate cancer. So I think the lack of awareness is one. And number two, the education. Once you become aware, the education becomes important. That is, what is this about? What do I need to be concerned about? Now, in between those two major areas, people put in all kinds of reasons. One like, I don't want to do that because it may change my orientation, or it may be damaging, or it may cause something else bad to happen. A lot of that is hearsay. A lot of that grows out of really not knowing what the facts are. And so I would say, while it's easy to point to certain conditions and reactions that people talk about, the fundamental issue is ignorance. The fundamental issue is not understanding, not knowing about, and not understanding prostate cancer. That I think is the number one issue.
So this is a male disease, but you constantly bring women into the conversation.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because I think it's a family disease. And that's what we have to forget about in terms of it's a male disease. I can tell you, every person who has a husband or a dear friend or fiance or brother, let me tell you, if those folks have prostate cancer, the entire family is impacted. So we need to stop misleading ourselves. We need to stop kidding about it. When anybody has cancer in your family, it becomes a family issue. So I don't like to use the term male disease any more than I like using, that's a female disease. I work with men who have both prostate cancer and breast cancer. So what do you call that? Well, it's a family disease.
Very much so. One of the things I noticed also is that there are several studies. Well, let me back up first. Have we gotten any closer to understanding why African American men are so impacted by this disease, desperately impacted by the disease compared to other men? Are we any closer yet?
I think we are closer, but not close enough to start celebrating. I think we know more because more black people are talking. I think there's some fantastic research going on, even as nearby as Eastern Virginia Medical School. There's some researchers going on there that may shine a brighter light. But I think at end of day, we have to embrace this idea and understand that black men are not included in most of the studies in large enough numbers to really tell us what we need to know. If you take a hard look at all of the studies that feed into the protocols for how prostate cancer is treated, you don't have a large number of black folk in those studies. So what that really means is that the study is going to be driven by the experience, the physical and the physiology of a white man. That's going to drive the protocols, and we don't know how the same disease may manifest itself in black men. Now, let me just give you an interesting data point. There are about 3 million 3 million prostate cancer survivors in the United States. 3.1, I believe, was the last number I saw. Most of those are white guys.
So we die. So black men tend to die more than white men.
Black men die earlier, and percentage-wise die more. Let me just give you something else that may get your attention. I look at the data by Hampton Roads because my focus is in Hampton Roads and each of the health districts. If you take the Hampton Health District and you use the statistics of per 100,000 for the current data for Hampton, 14.0 for white men, 43.5 for black men. If you look at the same data and data source and time frame for Portsmouth, 18.1 for white men. Are you sitting down?
Yes.
54.3 for black men. So what that tells me is that, yes, black men are dying, but it doesn't necessarily tell us why we are are dying. And I think a large part of that is that we are diagnosed too late to be successfully treated. And that's what we really, really need to know. If you take a black man and a white man and they're diagnosed at the same day and they're treated with the same level of professionalism, we don't know what happens at the other end of that tunnel. Chances are they could have common or comparable results. We aren't there. So we need to have more black people participating in studies, and we have the right studies that we are engaged in that we want black folk to be engaged in. Now, you mentioned that I only that we want women in our sessions, and the reason for that is that somehow women have been equipped with some skills and some intuition and some other things that men don't have. And certainly they listen better and listen more. So I don't like to have any kind of prostate event if women are not there. And they can be wives, girlfriends, mamas, daughters. It doesn't matter and because they will listen, take notes, and then that man has somebody that he can talk with who he knows that they have his best interest in mind, and he can ask the questions. And I take it one step further. I said, when you go to your doctor, you should go with that special woman, whoever she is, or influencer, whoever he is, so that you have somebody to talk with. Once you hear those words, you have cancer. But I'm not convinced that there's something wrong with black people that contributes to this. I do think that the whole world of disparities provide some information that will be helpful. And I think we're going to get closer to that as if we can keep the heat up and the focus on disparities over the next 3 to 5 years, we may learn more about that.
You know, it's interesting because there is so much distrust with the medical community and the black community. And if we don't have black people participate in these studies, it makes it even more difficult. What can we say? What can you say as president of the Hampton Roads Prostate Health Forum to convince people to get involved in the studies?
What I can say is I'm first of all, I am the beneficiary of some information that I picked up several years ago that allows me to talk with you. This is my 19th year. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer in June of 2002, and I'm talking to you today. Now, that didn't just happen because I have great genes or something like that. It happened because I had access to information, access to professionals who could guide me on that journey. So what I can say is we need to be on the lookout to participate in studies. Now, there is one huge study called the Respawn study we are the local recruiter for the Respawn study, and our goal is to recruit 10,000 black men in the U.S., across the U.S., 10,000 to participate in that study if they have been diagnosed January of 2010 or later. Now, what that study will do is it will provide a comprehensive amount of information for black people and, more importantly, for doctors, regardless of what color they are. They will have something to refer to. I know in your business you've talked a lot about and hear a lot about evidence-based science or evidence-based information. We don't have the evidence because we're not in the studies. Yeah. And we're not in the studies for reasons that we all understand, but we need to move past that.
And if you are interested in that Respond study, you can go to respondstudy.org and sign up to become a participant if you'd like, and also to find out more information. So, Charlie, tell us about Saturday. What's going to happen for the birthday party?
Saturday is exciting because we want to make those men who have become 40 in the month of September, we want to not just make them feel good, we want to make them feel great because they're going to be doing a couple of things. One, they're going to be celebrating a birthday. They're going to be also doing something that will be terrific for them and their families. So what we would like to have them do is participate in a virtual webinar starting at 10:30 to 11:30 at the 6 Mount Zion Baptist Temple in Hampton, and that's a 1-hour session. Immediately following that, from 11:30 to 1:30, we're going to do on-site live PSA testing and digital rectal exams, and they're going to be free. They're not free to the participants, obviously, because our wonderful sponsors have been supportive of that. And that is the first such large initiative in Hampton Roads in a couple of years. We all know because of COVID, a lot of men and women, but a lot of men stopped going to doctors, and a lot of these activities that we need to carry on have stopped. And I'm concerned right now with the new variants. They've slowed up already, and we don't see evidence of them happening very quickly. So we're already looking past this week. We want to test and examine as many men as we can on this Saturday, and we want to learn from them what else we can do in Hampton Roads. So I want to be clear. We are Hampton Roads focused. Yes. And for the men who are interested in the free PSA test and exam, they should dial 1-800-520-7006 to make an appointment so that we can have all of the protocols actually implemented properly. Social distancing, you must have a mask. And so if you just show up like 40 or 50 men at one time, that would make me very uncomfortable because we couldn't protect you the way we need to and the way we would want to. Yeah. So call to make the appointment. Then you won't be there forever. You go in on your slotted time, and before you leave, you'll have a personal birthday sort of package if, in fact, you are celebrating your birthday in the month of September, your 40th birthday. In addition, the first 25 men who come and participate and have the test, et cetera, would be eligible for a $20 gift card just to say happy birthday and thank you.
Oh, that's nice. So that is at 6 Mount Zion Baptist Church, 3100 Butternut Drive in Hampton. So there'll be an in-person virtual seminar and then the testing from between 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. And to make your appointment, call 1-800-520-7006. So we've got a question that just came in. They want to know the difference, and we got less than 5 minutes here. What's the difference between the digital rectal exam and a colonoscopy? Really?
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Well, that's a great question. We get it all of the time. I have guys who would tell me, well, I had my colonoscopy after I asked him about digital. Two totally different protocols, okay? Mm-hmm. One is going to the inside and looking for the intestine, looking at the inside of the intestines, et cetera, maybe up as high as the stomach.
And that's the colonoscopy.
That's the colonoscopy. Mm-hmm. The prostate, the DRE, digital rectal exam, the doctor uses a gloved finger, goes through the rectum and presses the wall of the colon against the prostate gland, because if they can touch it, and if what they're looking for is abnormalities, if there are any lumps or bumps in that gland, because then that tells the doctor there is something going on here that we need to do something about. I'm so glad whoever asked that question, I'm so glad, because there are a lot of men running around thinking because they have a colonoscopy, which is great that they had it, but it has nothing to do with prostate examination.
Got you. So we got about 4 minutes left, Charlie. I want to know, since you said you were diagnosed in 2002, it is now 2021. How are you doing? Because you are at the forefront of this, and you've been, hammering this home to people so long. And I just want to hear from you how you're doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. You know what? I made roll call again this morning, just like you and all of your listeners. So that's number one. That's number one. I made roll call, and I'm allowed to stay focused on these things, and I'm doing probably better than I deserve. As you know, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2002. You may not know that I was diagnosed with lymphoma in 2011. So I have two primary cancers in my body. And what I talk about with all of the men who may be listening is what we need to do is check and do something about our eating habits and how we take care of ourselves. I'll approach it this way. I practice what I preach. All of us are familiar with the word of rehab. You know, we do rehab after we have a procedure to get better outcomes, et cetera. Well, I practice prehab. And what prehab is to do things that will help me in the event I have a medical condition or in the event I have something else that will require me to do rehab eventually. What I was doing when I was diagnosed was prehab. I was eating well, I was exercising well, and it has paid significant benefits. So I'm doing well. I'm doing better than a lot of folk who don't have any cancers, but it's not by accident. You know, it's a conscious plan that I follow. I don't eat red meat. I eat lots of vegetables and fruits and nuts, and I don't eat fried foods, and I don't eat a lot of other things that are not great for me and my body. So, yeah, I am doing better than a lot of people with or without cancer. But the point that I make, it is not by accident. I am a high-energy, almost 78 years young person. Okay?
There you go. Absolutely.
And I'll tell your listening audience that this is not just smoke. I do 5 miles every day, 7 days a week. 5 miles. I walk it, don't run it.
Wow.
5 miles, 7 days a week, and then I do strength, muscle strength and lifting and those kinds of things. All of that is a part of my prehab, and every single one of us can do prehab.
Absolutely.
Remember, early detection saves lives. And in my case, I was diagnosed early enough to be successfully treated.
Thank you, Charlie, so much. Everyone call 1-800-520-7006. Good luck on Saturday, and thank you so much for joining us, Charlie. And there's more to come, audience. We'll be right back.
I'm with Marcellus, and you all are checking out Another View. Don't go anywhere. Check us out.
The year was 1917, and Booker T. Washington, along with philanthropist Julius Rosenwald, came up with an initiative to help black children in the segregated South get the education they deserved. They established the Rosenwald schools. In less than 20 years, there would be 5,000 of these state-of-the-art schools spread across 15 states. Today, only a few remain, but one of them is still standing on Virginia's Eastern Shore. As part of Another View's look at black nonprofits, producer Lisa Godley shares a little history about the Rosenwald School in Cape Charles and the valiant effort that's now underway to restore the historic schoolhouse.
Valentine Elliott Evans says, as a third grader, she loved walking to school. But once inside, it was how her day started and the things she learned that made attending the Rosenwald School in Cape Charles such a memorable experience.
When we got to school in the morning, we had devotion. We did the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. We played the 23rd song. We sang a hymn. And it was just uplifting every morning. The teachers were your second parent. They took interest in all the children. You got to do spelling bees and plays in the school. You could play volleyball. We had basketball. Like in mid-morning, the teachers would take you out for exercise and then bring you back in and you got back to your lesson.
Her friend Diane Davis says each teacher taught at least 2 grade levels, and while one group was being instructed, there were no shenanigans from the second group. They knew better.
The teacher did not have to stop us and said, stop talking, whatever. We did what we had to do. We knew that we were in school to learn, and of course, we did not want them to report to our parents that we were not doing what we needed to do, because our parents were very concerned about our education also. They were always on top of things and encouraged us to always do our best. At the time, the only type of work we could do was working in the field, and I knew I was going to be doing that the rest of my life, and I knew I was being prepared to do something better.
One of their fondest memories was the May Day celebration and the dance around the maypole.
The girls would wear colorful skirts and a white T-shirt, and the boys wore jeans and a T-shirt, but the wrapping of the maypole was like a living puzzle. It was really beautiful. It was exciting because that was something that we looked for every year, because it always kicked off the beginning of summer for us.
The maypole experience is just one of many things from the school's historic past that the Cape Charles Rosenwald School Restoration Initiative is working to reestablish. They also plan to dedicate a wing to the school's history and its amazing students. Tavia Griffin is the organization's president. She shares how the Rosenwald schools were key to closing the education gap in the early 20th century.
In the 1920s, the gap in educational attainment between black and white males in the South was 3 years. Blacks had an average of 5th grade education compared to 8th grade for whites. But by the 1940s, the gap had closed to just 6 months. It's just to show you the closing of the educational gap due to the education that these students had at Rosenwald schools.
The organization's goal is to continue the Rosenwald School's commitment to education and the surrounding community by providing an array of programs and services.
We want to be more than just a community center, so we will provide a satellite campus for the Eastern Shore Community College. We also will be using the auditorium space as workforce training. We'll be able to have various events there, and we want to open it also up for dialogue. We want dialogue between various races, dialogue between those who have lived in Cape Charles and in Northampton for years, and those who are what we call come-heres. There's a lot of gentrification happening in Cape Charles. You can imagine that conversation that needs to happen. And we want our school to be a place where that can happen, where people feel safe and they feel free to be able to have those conversations. And right now, we don't have that space. So really, what we envision is a place that was segregated will become a place where everyone should feel welcome and will be able to use, specifically in Cape Charles, but also throughout Northampton County.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And the nonprofit featured today is the Cape Charles Rosenwald School Restoration Initiative. The organization's goal is to restore the school and create opportunities for learning, dialogue, entrepreneurship, and workforce training for Northampton County and the surrounding community. And we will be highlighting African American nonprofits throughout the rest of the year. So congratulations to the Cape Charles Rosenwald School Restoration Initiative. Thank you for spending an hour of your life with us today, and you can listen to this show again or any other Another View podcast at anotherviewradio.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Next week on Another View, Dr. Keith Newby with the latest on the coronavirus pandemic. Yes, folks, we are still in the pandemic, and we will stay here until everyone who is eligible gets their shot. So do your part. Get your shot. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Todd Washburn is our audio engineer, and Jonah Brinkowitz answered our phones. I'm Barbara Hamley. Thanks for listening, and let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Support comes from Thomas Nelson Community College, the first choice to start a career. At Thomas Nelson, gain skills to succeed in fields like cybersecurity and education through short-term training and 2-year degrees. More at tncc.edu/firstchoice.